Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, should we just record?
Yeah, and then you can just break it up and
Just cut up whatever we want
yeah,
to.
sure.
Okay. Do an intro. Hi! This is a built 5-speed Allison that is absolutely torched inside, I'm told. So we're going to take this apart and just tear it down really quick and see what we're going to need to put back in this to build it. So we're just going to get going. So everything around the outside of this is just from the bell housing into the case. And everything on the inside perimeter with the rubber washer goes through the pump. And that seals high pressure fluid. Anything that escapes through the gasket could have the potential of coming out through there. So make sure all those have O-rings that are in good shape on them. This one has a cooler fitting in the way of it every time, and instead of taking the cooler fitting out and potentially having a leak behind there, I was just leave this one. When you take it out, it gets stuck, basically jammed in between the fitting in the hole. This has an AN cooler line on it, which is nice. It actually, but that's as far as you can get it out, so we'll just leave it there. This one has a bad bell housing on it, which is probably from somebody trying to hold the converter from spinning while doing a balance around it or something, but bell housing out of the way for now. We'll get back into that pump later. Here we can see this has a billet input shaft in it. These blinds are different than I got transmission fluid on my pants when I moved that bell housing. That's really fun. Here's a stock input shaft versus the billet one, so it's quite a bit nicer. I'm assuming on this thing we're gonna find a lot of the carnage in this first, right in the input drum here. This holds the C1 and C2 clutches. C1 is the smaller one that we're gonna find in here. And it's responsible for, that's interesting. So that looks like the wrong input shaft is in here, and that just input shaft totally just wore a big groove. This is the back of the input shaft, and this looks like, so every billet input shaft for the most part has a late style bearing here, which means that this face is shorter, and that means that you need to machine off the flat surface here. This is supposed to be completely flat, and a stock early style one looks like that with a raised edge in the middle of it. So it looks like maybe this was a late style hub and an early style input shaft, and it basically didn't even use this bearing, and every time that it was in overdrive, it smashed the back of the input shaft right into there. So that's more than just a burnt collection what I was expecting to find, so that's exciting. This is the C2, which is on in 4th and 5th gear and 6th gear in a 6-speed. These are all cooked. You can see there's quite a bit of dish in there. That's supposed to be flat. It's pretty coned, so that's gross. And then we take the C1 has 2 snap rings. Take out one spiral one that is really fun to stab yourself when you're taking it out. So this transmission is supposed to be built for 850 horsepower. And so this is an aftermarket C2, but what I'm seeing in here sort of looks like a stock C1. Hollywood movie magic. Suddenly it's loose. And since we've been machining that C1 hub at the end of the input shaft, there's a good burr. So if we're going to reuse that shaft, we're going to need to put the different hub in there, and then also file down the ends of these. But that's pretty sure that's a factory C1, which would hold okay power with the full shift kit on a 5-speed, but unless it's got really good hydraulics in it, after the torque converter locks, the mainline pressure is going to go down from 190 from the factory to 140, which won't be enough. It's going to be fun if we get to do that on every single one of these. Interesting. Thick apply plate, which is usually on a 6-speed, but whatever. We'll have to get into this a little bit further to see whether it has a full shift kit in or not. Not that it really matters, because the hydraulics that we'll put back in it either way will make it stronger. So that's interesting to find that input shaft all chewed up though. thing will go around. Take the extension housing off. Oh no, I got it! Oh, dang it. Did we just lose there? Oh, the parking hall spring retainer. So this is like why you don't change a extension housing in the truck. Just because when you pull this off, this is what your room looks like. Your closet after you clean for the holidays when your family is coming over and you shove all your stuff in the closet. You open up the door and it all falls out. So this is the C5, which is in basically park neutral, reverse in first gear. The stock C5 goes in most high performance applications. Most of the time when you see these things, it's basically the biggest diameter clutch. It has the most clutch material out of all of the clutches in the transmission, and first gear has the easiest job, even though you think when you hit the throttle real hard, it accelerates the hardest. The gear reduction is the most, so there's the Planetaries and the main shaft. Basically, no clutches here, but usually when this is built for a higher volume C3, you'll have a little spacer that goes in here on this is the P1 and this is the P2 and there's the P3. P stands for planetary. When you say C2, C stands for clutch. All right, so we'll see what's in here for clutches, but right now it looks like it's embarrassing. I'm not even sure what clutches those are. That one looks factory, but we don't have to. We'll take that all apart when we inspect it to put it back together, but for now all these planetaries can stay together. And we can pull double snap rings on the This is actually a really weird build because we're having stock clutches in it, but then somehow a billet input shaft. I don't really know what's going on. Somebody had a billet input shaft on the shelf and they put it in the stock transmission and sold it as a
built transmission.
built transmission, maybe. I don't know. So C4, first snap ring. The bummer about these is I just have built a couple 6 speeds and the second snap ring in the C4 and a 6-speed is another one of these, but it's smaller. And the one in the 5-speeds is this stupid spiral ring.
Oh, sure.
And that's not any fun to put back in. So this is C4. Use this in second gear, and yeah. Second gear and fourth gear, and that's a stock clutch pack. That's a apply piston. P1 ring gear. Seems like that's what we're gonna find in C3 twos. C3 snapping ring, stock C3 backing plate, stock C3 clutches. There's
Jeez.
absolute C3 carnage. I've done this to a transmission one time, but it was a built one. This does the fun. This is the main problem with the stock Allison, even with the kit, is this C3, and that it's hard to tell now because these are so roached, but it has 4 clutches, which for some reason this one seems to, this has 4, but there's 2 of them in the middle here. I don't really, that might be some old school trick that I don't know, but that's not how I like to party. But so basically, yeah, stock transmission that might have been blueprinted at one point, meaning that they checked all the clearances and then put a shaft in it. But thankfully, nothing crazy except for that's an expensive input shaft to have carnage like that. I have the parts to replace that hub, so not so bad, but turned down an Allison, minus the valve body. We'll get into the valve body later to double check springs, and we'll have to open up the pump regulator spring and see what's in there. But yeah, thanks for watching.